Hi everyone, Scallywag Artist here with another installment in my Basics of Guitar series. This is part 4, where I am going to be going over strings and how to change them, as well as how to clean and condition your guitar. What you're going to want to do is clear off a coffee table or some other type of long table that will serve as your workbench, and spread a towel or blanket over it, and then lay down a pillow for the guitar's headstock to rest on, or better yet, get yourself one of these for that. And then lay your guitar on that, where it will stay securely in place without getting dinged up or anything. You'll also want to get yourself a guitar toolkit, which will have pretty much all or most of the tools that you will need to do the most minor adjustments and tune-ups of your guitar. You're going to want some rags for cleaning and conditioning, some guitar polish, some lemon oil or mineral oil, a guitar peg winder, or more ideally, one that is a drill bit that goes on the end of a drill, which will make the job much easier. And of course, you are going to need a set of strings. Now, I almost always go with D'Addario brand strings, and if not these, I go with Ernie Ball brand strings, and if not those, then I go with some other similar type of strings in the same price range of about $5 per set. You can, if you are rich and have the money for it, buy guitar strings as expensive as you want to, alright? They sell guitar strings that cost up to around $20 a set. However, guitar strings such as these that only cost $5 per set are not only not bad, but are very good and are the preferred brand of most players, not just myself, okay? These are the most famous and used brands of strings. And when you buy and use a $20 set of strings, it is not going to be 4 times better than a $5 set such as these. All right, it is only going to be somewhat better, maybe a little better, maybe it won't even be that much noticeably better. All right, there is a law of diminishing returns when you pay more for products. So you should only really be buying more expensive strings if you have that much more money to burn, because what also makes a huge difference in your string quality is how often you change them. All right, so you wouldn't want to go buying a $20 set of strings and then, because you spent that much extra money, try to get them to last 4 times longer. All right, because at a certain point, regardless of the quality of them, the strings are going to begin to get dull. I don't know if you can tell, but these strings are not that bright sounding. They are very dull sounding because they haven't been changed in quite some time, all right? About 6 months or so. And that is the longest amount of time you should go without changing your strings. And should only happen if you're not really using that instrument. Like, I wasn't really using this instrument very much recently, so that's why I went longer than usual. But ideally, you should be changing them more often than that, like every 2 to 3 months, all right? That way your strings stay bright sounding. Now, you can get strings that are coated so that they will last longer without becoming damp sounding and dull like that. But the coated strings aren't going to sound as good or as bright in the first place because of the coating that is applied to them. So it's really just better that you don't even bother spending more money getting coated strings, and instead just get whatever kind of strings you can afford, like these or the Ernie Balls or whatever in the $5 price range, and change them more often, okay? So now I'm going to teach you about how to change your strings and condition the fretboard and clean and polish the whole guitar. First thing that you're going to want to do is to unwind the strings, at least somewhat. And it is so much faster when you do it with a drill. If I wasn't using a drill, it would take a lot longer. And then you can remove them from the tuning pegs, and any that are giving you trouble, flip them. That should make it a lot easier. Careful not to prick yourself. Now, while the entire process is almost exactly the same for electric guitars, this is the one thing that is different. With acoustic guitars, you need to remove the bridge pin, so you need this kind of tool here, bridge pin remover, which will often come on the end of your string clippers, okay? Or it comes with most of these tool kits. So set those aside, make sure you don't lose them. And then take all of these strings that you don't need anymore. Make sure that you either safely deposit them into a garbage can without poking yourself, or you can recycle them, or some of these companies have string recycling programs, so that's cool. Now that we've gotten the strings off, before we can go ahead and restring it, we need to clean it and condition the fretboard. So we're going to take a dirty rag here, and we are going to wipe down the fretboard from side to side like that to get any oils and skin cells from our fingers off of it that might have gotten rubbed in there. You notice it does get slightly dirty there when you do it, because there definitely was some stuff on there. And then we are going to take some guitar polish, and we are going to spray a clean rag with it and wipe down the whole entire guitar. Alright. We're going to go over it everywhere more than once, because we don't do this very often. We want to make sure that we do a good job of it. So we go over every single inch. Okay, and while I was doing that, my bridge fell out. So we want to make sure that we don't step on that, keep that safely stored to the side there. And then what we want to do is we want to take either our lemon oil or mineral oil, and we want to season the fretboard with it. And then take our dirty rag again, find a cleaner spot on it, and spread that around and just sort of rub it in. Now, if I was using the mineral oil and not the lemon oil, I wouldn't have just dumped it on there. The mineral oil doesn't have the same type of small little hole to spout it out in droplets. Since the mineral oil has a larger opening, I would have taken the rag and put it on top and, you know, turned it over a couple of times just to saturate the tip of the rag with it. And then you want to go back and forth across the fretboard multiple times, just massaging the oil right in there. So I'm going to do it twice, and then what you want to do is, before it begins to dry, massage some into the bridge as well. Okay. Make sure you massage it in really good there. And then I'm going to go back over the fretboard again, one last time just for good measure. But I don't need to obsess over it, because the next step is to let it sit and just wait and let it soak in for about 5 or maybe even 10 minutes if you want. Okay, I'm just going to wait for 5 minutes. And in the meantime, if you want to go right ahead and open up your strings and get them ready, you can. Alright, so now that you're done twiddling your thumbs for 5 to 10 minutes or doing whatever, you want to take your dirty rag again and in a spot that is not too dirty, polish off the oil. Alright, make sure you rub it all off as best you can by going over it multiple times in the same manner in which you applied it, along with the bridge as well. And then that spot on the rag will be oily and dirty, so I like to move on to another clean spot and then go over it again and polish it even more so that it is nice and sleek and smooth and shiny and just beautiful. So go over it a couple more times, and then the bridge again as well, just a little bit for good measure. You see, there was more to get. All right, and you can leave it, you know, a little oily, and you know, that might actually be good for it. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry. Okay, and then after you've done that, you want to take your clean rag that you used for cleaning it and wipe it down once more to get any oil that you used to season the fretboard cleaned up. Alright, you don't want to use it on the top of the fretboard very much, but mostly on the sides and bottom and around the bridge. Okay, and anywhere that your oily fingers might have touched. Because while you can do this again after you have restrung it, it's going to be harder to do with strings on it because the rag will catch on the strings. Okay, so now you are ready to restring it. You can start by replacing the bridge if it fell out, and make sure you do it the right way. So if it has two little spots like that on one end, that goes where the high strings are going to be. If it doesn't, which it should, but if it doesn't, then the end that protrudes more should be on the top where the lower strings are. All right, and I like to start restringing my guitar with the lower strings. So with these D'Addarios, the lowest string, the E string, is going to be brass colored. So you start by inserting it in the hole, taking the bridge pin and pushing it down in there as hard as you can. And if it's an electric guitar, all you're going to have to do really is to string it through a hole and then pull it out while keeping the pin pushed in. Pull it out as much as you can. Make sure the tuning peg's hole is facing where the string needs to come through, and just push it through there like a thread through a needle, and then pinch it from above the next tuning peg and then push it down, and then pinch with the other hand below that tuning peg there, and then you can start to turn the tuning machine while keeping pressure downward on the string there. And then what I like to do, and different guitars have different methods, I like to have the string come over the end on top first, and then go under after that, and from then on. See what I mean? Just put it back in there in the nut, and twist it the rest of the way, almost all the way, and then snip off that end there. And voila! One string is done. On to the next, and it is the same exact thing all the way down the line. So I'm going to pinch above the next tuning peg, push it down, pinch below that tuning peg, and turn it while pulling it down, and then go above and then below the protruding end, just like so. I'm going to snip off the end. And on to the next. That was the A string. The next is the D string, which for D'Addarios has a black end. For this one, I'm just going to estimate. And on to the next, which is the G string and is green. Thread it through. And so with an acoustic guitar or a guitar that has tuning pegs on either side, we go up one side and then down the other. notice that the higher strings require more turning. Second to last is the B string, which is purple for Diodario's. Thread it through. Snip off the end. And what will happen is when you put the tuning peg in, sometimes the ball of the string is not at the end of the tuning peg. Sometimes it's far down in there and has snagged on something. And what will happen then is when you're tuning the string up, it might then come loose and there will be a snap or a popping sound, and the string will suddenly not be as tight. Don't be alarmed if that happens. You just have to tune it up again. And then make sure not to prick yourself with any of these. That can smart. Throw them out, and then remove that. Last thing we got to do is tune it up, right? Because that's obviously not good sounding. It's not right. So if you have a tuner, that's super easy, which I do here. If not, you can use a keyboard and just match it with, and just match each string with the keys you want. Or you can use this video right now, right? So I'm going to tune this up to E. That's E, guys. So tune your guitar to that. The next one is A. There we have it. That is A, guys. So tune your A string to that. And then the next one is D. That's D, guys. The next is G, and that's G, guys. The next is B, and that's B. And then finally E. Same as the lowest one, but 2 octaves higher. That's high E. And then your work is not over yet. What you want to do is bend the strings now. One by one, with all 4 fingers, bend it 5 times or so. Each string to loosen it up. And then, when you've done it 5 times or so, do it again. And now your guitar should be out of tune again. And you want to tune it up again. This time I'm going to teach you how to do it without a tuner or me or a keyboard. At least for most of the strings, you do need to start with the lowest string being in tune to E, which right now it's not. That is lower. So I'm going to tune it up to E. There, that's E. Now what you want to do is fret the 5th fret, and that's A. So tune that string up to match the fretted 5th string by ear. Then do the same with your A string, fret the 5th fret, then tune the next string up to match that, just using your ear. There we go. Same thing with the next one. However, the next one, the G string, you fret on the 4th fret for the B string to tune up to. And then back to the 5th fret on the B string to tune the E string up. And then repeat this all over again. One more time. And it should be out of tune again. So we're going to tune it up one last time. 3rd time's a charm. And you'll notice it is less out of tune after loosening those strings up the 2nd time. Because they're broken in now. And now your guitar is ready to be played. You have restrung it, polished it, conditioned it, and it is good as new. So that is how to clean, condition, and restring a guitar. And if in the meantime, before it needs to be restrung again, your guitar gets dusty or dirty, these tools are extremely useful for cleaning it then. All right, you can use these for getting under the strings here and along the bridge. All right, and then this very thin part for going under the strings to clean off the fretboard if needed. Or if it just needs a light dusting, you can use this brush, kind of like a makeup brush, to get in between the strings and then to do the headstock as well. And, you know, all of these little crevices that can tend to get little bits of dust and dirt in them. You know, so that keeps your guitar looking nice and perfectly neat and clean. And if your guitar happens to have its strings too high or too low off of the fretboard, which is called its action, and if they are too high, that would make it difficult to play and requiring too much pressure downward from this hand. And if it is too low, that would mean that it will be causing fret buzz as the strings vibrate against all of the frets. And so in the case that it is too high or too low, you're going to want to take the Allen wrench that came with your guitar and insert it down here. And in order to lower the action or make the strings come down closer to the fretboard, you want to turn it to the right. And only do that once or twice at a time. And then take a ruler that measures in millimeters and measure it at the 12th fret and the largest string, which should be less than 3 millimeters high off of the fret. Okay? If it is 3 millimeters or higher, that is probably too high. Okay? 3 millimeters may not be too high for you, but over that probably is. All right? And if you need the action to get higher, or there to be more space between the strings and the fretboard because it is causing a buzzing sound, you are going to do the opposite and turn it to the left, which loosens up the truss rod, thus causing the neck to bow ever so slightly. All right, and making the action get higher. So that is what the Allen wrench is for, that comes with your guitar. And if it is an electric guitar, it won't be under the sound hole because your guitar won't have a sound hole. It'll be right here above the nut. And since you will be tuning from a different direction, the left and right will be reversed of what I just showed you. So don't make a mistake and do the opposite of what you want to do. All right, so I hope that this has been of help to you. And if it was, make sure that you like the video and share it on your social media. If you have any questions or need any help with anything, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And make sure that you are subscribed and that your subscription is set to all so that you can stay tuned for my next video in the Guitar Basics series, where I'll be teaching you how to make your first guitar chords and rhythms. And if you would like to hear the kind of music that I make with my guitars, you can venture over to my videos tab and check out my previous releases. Otherwise, I will see you guys there. Bye, everyone.